I would add something to that, though, that goes back further than that. When we were in Tinley Park, and Adele and Dennis were both in kindergarten, why, they were playing together, of course, at that time. And the church, where I was pastor, 4th of July, we were supposed to have a float in a parade. And so our float for our church was a replica of a wedding. And we had to have a bride and groom. So Adele was the bride, Dennis was the groom, and they were all dressed up. Dennis had a long tail coat on that my mother made for him, and he was about 5 years old, I guess, whatever it was. And so they have been sweethearts ever since.
That's what started out our, I think, long-range outlook on becoming husband and wife, although we didn't know it at the time. So that was kind of ironic. Adele and I met when we were in kindergarten. I moved to Tinley Park, and Adele was already there living with her parents about a block away. Tinley Park was a small farming town at that time, and her house was on the edge of all the cornfields in Tinley Park. So I would go down there and play with her at her house, and we'd run around the cornfields and whatnot. And so that's kind of how we started off our friendship. The one story I remember, quite frankly, was the day we were riding our tricycles around the neighborhood, and we ducked down an alley, which was, of course, gravel, not concrete. And I happened to fall off, and she ran me over with her tricycle. And the weight of the tricycle and her, of course, put scratches and gouges in my arms and legs from the gravel. And I was crying a lot, and she was all worried, so we ran up to my house, and she proceeded to put water all over me from the garden hose and bandaged me up with probably about 50 bandages. And that's kind of like what started our friendship. And of course, our families got together when each one of us kids would have a birthday, have a big birthday blowout. You know, we'd play all the great games like pin the tail on the donkey and drop the clothespin in the milk bottle and things of that nature. And of course, we had our, Glen Rock Coca Pop and our silly little hats and whatnot. And of course, I had to have my cowboy shirt on because I always loved to think about being a cowboy at one time, watching Roy Rogers and Hopalong Cassidy. And so, of course, we invited Adele over. I think she was one of maybe only one or two girls, but the rest were all boys at my birthday party. But she kept up with all the guys pretty good. I think she even beat everybody at pin the tail on the donkey. She was very competitive that way. And we moved a few years after that. I think I was in 3rd grade. And we moved to Beverly Hills, near Chicago. But because my parents and her parents became real, close friends, they would come and visit us once in a while. We would visit them. We also took vacations together up in Wisconsin and Michigan. My dad and Adele's dad were avid fishermen, so we would always make a week out of fishing up in the North Woods. And of course, the kids would go out and play every day and swim in the lake. So that's pretty much how we kept in touch through all those years, even through high school. It was 1967 or 1968. She actually asked me if I would marry her. And she said that was totally legitimate because that was the year that women could ask the guys to marry them. And so I accepted, and we got married. So on the day we were married, my dad married us along with my grandfather, Harold Empey, who was an ordained Methodist minister as well. And it was really nice when we went into the church.
Well, if you remember, the very hot day when we were married, Empty in the 90s, one of those nice hot humid days, and of course, I can remember at 4:30 when we were pronounced man and wife that there was a rumbling in the skies, and the skies opened up, and I guess it rained a good portion on us.
7 tornadoes were spotted in the area. But we got to our reception, had the reception, everything went well, and we drove back to Cheyenne, Wyoming, where I was stationed in my '68 Chevelle Super Sport, and settled into our new apartment. So we were in Wyoming for a couple of months, maybe 2 or 3. While here at the reception, my brother-in-law was in charge of taking all the envelopes that people had given to us out to his car. And he actually dropped a bunch of them and didn't even realize it because it was raining so hard.
But it was a couple months after we were married. I received a letter out in Cheyenne from a Baptist minister who had found some of the cards.
Got in touch with the hotel manager, found out where we were through my mother-in-law, and the hotel mailed all these envelopes to us. We opened them up, and here there was about $500 worth of checks in there. And we thought that was really remarkable, that somebody was that thoughtful to gather up all that stuff in the rain and send them out to us, with the checks in there. Eventually, we came back to Chicago. We bought our first house in Mundelein for $34,000, and we had a beautiful daughter and beautiful son at that time, and that pretty much started us out our living in Chicago. From there we moved into Vernon Hills, and we were actually there for 31 years, and I'm still there. As we got older, we were ready to retire, and I was bought out by the Chicago Tribune at 59 and a half, so I was pretty well set to stay retired, but Adele kept on working. She went to work till she was 62. Well, she almost got to retirement, and she came down with breast cancer and survived 2 operations for that, and went through chemotherapy and radiation treatments. And about 6 months later, she came down with ALS, which is known as Lou Gehrig's disease. And for three and a half, almost 4 years, she suffered and went downhill since contracting that, and of course never regained any use of any of her limbs or whatnot, and passed on in 2013. So it was a very tough uphill battle for not only for her but for me as well, and it was a very discouraging thing to go through. Let's see, how to stay married for a long time, coming from an old guy like me. I don't know, times change and evolve so much. Your tastes change, your perception of life changes, your kids change you, and through all these changes throughout the years, you have to kind of like learn how to be like a running back and learn how to dodge and get around all the defenders trying to get at you. If you can do that, you can survive, but it's always a lot nicer and better if your wife is there with you at the same time. To do that, you have to always say, "Yes, ma'am, I agree." And that's it.